शुक्लांबरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। दक्षिणामूर्तिसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गणपति बप्पा जय श्री राम। So good thanks to Kusumji in our group. She just informed me that it is also the Punyatithi as per Gregorian calendar for Swami Vivekananda, who took Samadhi in the year 1902 on 4th July. It's a very special day. One of the greatest saints to have been in 19th, 20th century. Youth power, he represented youth power, a great disciple for Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. I do plan to cover, my mother requested me, I think Deshmukh Kaki also requested me a few days ago that we should try and cover Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's Charitra. So we'll try and cover probably the next Charitra Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's, and we'll have Swami Vivekananda's stories coming in that particular Charitra. We'll try and cover that as well during that. Great saints. Surely we should think about them and pay our respects for the service that they did for the Dharma. Last week I happened to have a discussion with one of my friends on Hindu Dharma and its age, how old it is. So we do keep hearing a lot of news as to 5,000 years, some say it is 10,000 years, some say it is few lakhs. So we were discussing all of that. We've already covered how old our Dharma is in the first session of Ramayana itself. I'm not getting into that. But generally what happens in a discussion is that discussions get into an argument, right? And when a discussion gets into an argument and there is a little bit of discomfort that comes in because the method in which we argue, I thought I'll try and cover on that aspect of discussions and arguments as spoken in our Shastras, okay? So, as per our Shastras, we have discussion, and every discussion generally has, so there is something called as a Tarka Shastra, and there is something called as a Nyaya Shastra. Tarka Shastra specifically specializes in the method in which arguments have to be done, because it is understood that if you come from different backgrounds, if you come from different ideologies, and India, you don't even need foreign ideologies. India itself, in Sanatana Dharma itself, has a lot of ideologies within it. So if you come from different ideologies, it is but natural that you might have difference of opinion, and to resolve this difference of opinion, there are certain rules in which you generally engage to discuss. Okay? So Tarka Shastra and Nyaya Shastra. Nyaya Shastra is about logic. Nyaya, the word Nyaya can be used both for logic and for justice because they are interchangeable, because that which is logical can only be just, and that which is just has to be logical, and that is why the word used is Nyaya Shastra. Okay? So logic, to explain logic and to explain the way it has to be argued, they are generally an interdependent subject. So as per that, I'll just briefly cover. It says there are 5 to 6 important elements in an argument. Okay? The first is Tarka, which means reasoning. There has to be a reasoning to start a particular argument. There has to be a Vada. Vada means a debate. So basically, based on my reasoning, I will have a point to debate on. Then there is something called as a Yukti, which is sustained arguments. Based on my reasoning, as to I come from a certain reasoning, I get into a debate, and when I get into a debate, I will have a certain set of points which are thrown at the opponent. Those become Yukti. There is something called as a Prameya. Prameya means the overall body of knowledge that I have, and the overall body of knowledge that the opponent has. So that becomes the knowledge into which we dip, take information and then present it as a yukti. There is something called as a pramana, which means proof. So anything that we speak has to have a pramana. You have to have evidences. Evidences could be from Vedas, evidences could be from the Shastras, evidences could be from the Upanishad, evidences could be from what the Rishis have said, could be from the Puranas. So you have to be, when you put forth a particular point, when you put forth a particular yukti, it has to be backed by a particular pramana, which is the evidence. And then based on all discussions, there has to be a nirnaya. Okay? Nirnaya would be ascertainment. Nirnaya also is used as a judgment or a result. But here in argument it means ascertaining. Ascertainment of what? Ascertainment of the truth. Because the argument is to find the truth behind the argument. So that is what the basis of an argument is. There are types of argument. The reason why I wanted to cover this subject is because all of us generally enter into arguments, discussions, debates with our cousins, brothers, friends, relatives, acquaintances. We should guard ourselves against certain aspects of argument, and that is the reason I thought I should cover this. So what are the types of arguments, or what are the types of discussions, debates that have been discussed? One is called as samvada, which means it's a dialogue. Samvada means dialogue, a dialogue between two people. Samvada, the basic premise of samvada is there is a truth seeker and there is a person who is speaking on the truth. So generally a guru-sishya discussion will fall into samvada, which means there is a question that I am asking and there is somebody who is trying to answer. With all of this, with tarka, with vada, with yukti, with prameya, with pramana and with nirnaya, he has to give me an answer with all of this. Okay? But there will be a question answer, which means the seeker is already taken a position that I don't know. Guruji, hence enlighten me. Right? But I have questions and I can ask interesting questions. I can ask questions which can defeat the logic. So doesn't mean that I shouldn't ask questions. I can ask interesting questions to defeat the argument also, but the basic premise is with respect. The basic premise is with the objective of learning. So that comes under samvada. Then there is something called as a vada. Vada means here it is argument. It is between two equals, or it is between two individuals who necessarily do not fall into the same school of thought. But the basic objective, the basic premise is to establish truth. And both of them enter into a discussion objectively, saying if you are able to objectively prove with pramana, put up a yukti and give me a pramana, then I will end up accepting. So both have come into the argument with an open-mindedness, with a positive outlook, with an intent to understand the truth. So we do have such discussions amongst families, right? We get into a discussion. Okay, what is this? Is this true, or is this wrong, or is this the way government should do? So you get into a discussion with an objective of learning out of it and then forming an opinion. This is the classic and the best form of discussion, where both the opponents are objectively looking at the subject matter and discussing. Not only the opponents end up learning a lot of things, even the people, the audience, the people who are watching them, the argument, also end up learning a lot of things, because there are new things that then get thrown up based on the prameya. Prameya is the object of knowledge, because individuals have got their own body of knowledge which they are throwing up at each other. So there is a lot of learning generally that happens in a vada, both the opponents and the audience. Next comes is jalpa. Now jalpa is where both opponents have already made up their minds that my point of view is correct. They have got into an argument, they are coming into a discussion, but with a rigid mind, saying that my point of view is correct, I have to ensure that the other person falls in line with me. Right? Now this is what generally happens. When we get into an argument, all of us, specifically people who are of my age and elder to me, we generally have rigid ideas. We are very inflexible to new point of views that come in. So when we end up discussing, we generally, because we already carry a lot of baggage of our lives, we've had our own experiences, our views are based on those experiences, so we are very rigid towards change. We generally enter an argument saying that I am already right. There is nothing that is to change in me. The person who has to change is the opponent. When you enter an argument with such a preconceived bias, note, and a prejudice, that ends up in vada, jalpa. The good part is, there will be a lot of noise between the opponents. There is going to be no change of view between the opponents. They are going to hold on to their guns. But at the end of it, the audience will end up gaining a lot of things, because those people will generally come with a lot of prameya, a lot of body of knowledge. It is still not a fight. It is still not boiled down to a dog fight. It is still a decent fight between two individuals, matured, who are not ready to let go of their ground. What effectively happens is the audience ends up gaining a lot of knowledge because both of them being intelligent, they are coming with their own body of knowledge, they are putting it very articulately, all of that is something the audience generally gets enlightened. And then they can choose, depending on their leaning, their ideologies, they can choose whichever is their viewpoint. The fourth is what is called as Vitandavada. Okay? So Vitandavada is basically a useless argument. It is where opponents get into an argument for the sake of arguing. Here the opponents are not wanting to prove their point. Here the opponents are wanting to disprove somebody else's point. I hope you are understanding the difference, right? Jalpa is about holding your own point and then sticking to it and then presenting something in that relation. Vitanda is where the idea is only to put down the opponent, insult the opponent. Here the argument very quickly boils down to a personal fight where the opponents are no more discussing about the subject matter. They start making personal allegation, they will start playing for the gallery, they will squibble about small things. The rules of argument, the maturity is generally absent in such arguments. I'm sure all of us have experienced such arguments, right? Along with friends, relatives, right? So Vitanda is something that we should clearly avoid. If you find an argument going down its route from Vada to Jalpa to Vitanda, you should stop because it's not going anywhere. It's not going to go anywhere at all. Till Jalpa, it's still manageable. You are able to put forth your point vociferously. But the moment it gets down to Vitanda, the other person is only there to insult you. The other person is there only to put you down. He is no more interested in his viewpoint. I have seen Vitandavad where people both are coming from the same point of view, but they want to prove that he said it first or I have proven it before you, and hence you get into an argument. So it goes nowhere. Okay. The reason I thought I would cover this is because in today's world, specifically the kind of life that we live and the political leanings that all of us have, we generally get into arguments on religion. Politics are 2 points where generally a lot of arguments happen, including our WhatsApp groups. So I would want you all to be careful if you find any of the arguments dropping down in your barometer from Vada to Jalpa to Vitanda, you should leave. It's not something that we should be into. I thought I'd just cover that. Okay, with that, let us come back to our Ramayana. So we covered Vali Vadha, that is killing of Vali in the last session. I tried in my own humble way to try and cover the logical reasoning as to why Rama didn't do a mistake in killing Vali in the manner in which he got killed. Vali is now on the ground. Tara comes out wailing. She is pounding her chest and she is wailing. And the first thing she says, Vali, I told you not to go out and wage a battle with Sugriva. I knew there is something that is bad that is going to happen. Not only in this, Vali, you never ever listened to me at all. In any of my, although you called me as a counsel, you never ever listened to me at all. And that is the reason why you have fallen today on the ground with an arrow in your heart. So Vali, of course, has already realized with the logic that Rama gave, Vali has already realized the mistakes that he did, which we covered. Vali actually told Rama, had I met you a few months ago, I would have at least got some knowledge, some lessons on dharma. Unfortunate, he actually turns to Sugriva and says, it is so bad, Sugriva, we could have lived so happily as good brothers. You could have been the compassionate partner, I could have been the partner for strength, and we could have ruled together Kishkinda so beautifully and according to dharma. But alas, it is not to be, and I am on ground and I'm almost on my deathbed. But you do rule well. You have an excellent partner in the form of Rama, a counsel, a great dharma follower, and ensure that you follow whatever he says and rule well. He also turns to Rama and says, Sugriva is a very compassionate person. He's emotional, but he's very compassionate and somebody who will rule as per what you would say, Rama. The only problem that Sugriva has is an alcohol problem. And he actually says this. Even as he is dying, he actually says this to Rama. Apart from alcohol problem, Sugriva is a very good person. He also tells Sugriva that, Sugriva, do keep Tara as your minister and do ensure that you listen to her because she is a person who can see the future. She is an extremely smart and wise lady. you should always listen to her, don't go outside her counsel, which is what I did, and see what has happened to me. This is what Vali is saying as his dying words. So he also turns to Sugriva and says, Angada has to become your protege. Ensure that you take him as your son. He might be a nephew, but rear him as your son, and he will be a great help to you. I have trained him in warfare, I have trained him in administration, but I am sure he will flourish under you. Thus saying, Angada then finally removes the arrow from his heart, and the blood starts oozing out, and then Vali breathes his last. A powerful king, so powerful that Ravana himself dreaded to be in presence of Vali. Such was his power and such was his might, but problem was his might went into his head and he became an egoistic person. But Vali had to be shown his place, and that is how he was removed away from the script, which is what we discussed last time. Sugriva is made the king. Lakshmana goes into Kishkinda, ensures that he coronates him. Rama was not to come into the Kishkinda because that is a promise that he gave to his mother, that he will never enter a city, he will always remain in the forest. So that is how he lived by his word. Lakshmana goes and coronates Sugriva, and then immediately the 4 months of rainy season starts, which is called as the Chaturmas, which is what again we covered. Chaturmas is basically the 4 months when Ashad Ekadashi to Kartik Ekadashi, which is when, as far as God goes to sleep, that is a Devashayani Ekadashi, and then he wakes up in Kartik Ekadashi, that is Prabodhini Ekadashi. God never goes to sleep. The fact is that God is always in Yoga Nidra, which means he is in a meditative sleep. Okay? And that is how he runs the entire Srishti. He goes to sleep, the creation will go to, will really be into a problem. So that he never sleeps. But for us, he is basically, those are the 4 months which he is taking rest. So how does this 4 months happen? It's basically 1/3 of a year. What do? We also sleep for 1/3 of the day, right? 8 hours is 1/3 of 24 hours. We also sleep for 8 hours, and the rest of the 16 hours is about action. Similarly for God also, 1/3 of the time we allow him to sleep, take rest, and the other 2/3 we are anyway troubling him. So that is the way his day is also split. So these 4 months, what happens is nature is in its full bloom. It's raining everywhere, animals are out of their hibernation. Those days it used to be mud path, A lot of diseases also used to be coming out. So bacteria, viruses, generally if you see, I've heard a lot of my friends are also down with either viral attack or whatever. Luckily none of them with COVID. So this generally happens in rainy season. And hence one is expected to be confined to your locality, your village, your town, your house. Okay? And this is the time generally one doesn't venture out, one doesn't travel. In Sannyasa Dharma, the expectation is that Chaturmas, if a sannyasa is in a particular city, they will stay put in that city for 4 months. They will not cross the boundary of that city till such time Chaturmas gets over. That is a part of the Sannyasa Dharma also. So Rama decides that Rama and Lakshmana, they decide they will stay in the cave. Now they decide to stay in the cave as Sugriva is now staying in Kishkinda in the palace. Now imagine Rama's state of mind. Okay, this is something we need to spend a couple of minutes. Rama is in utter distress. He doesn't know where his wife is. He doesn't know the state of affairs, whether she is alive, whether she is dead. Even if she is alive, she is in an enemy zone with all ugly looking demonists and demons around her. Now Rama is thinking, 4 long months I have to keep quiet. I have all the intentions to do the search. I want to go out and search, but I cannot do the search because Rama, even under utter distress, will follow Dharma. Chaturmas is supposed to be for nature and nature alone. We are not supposed to meddle around with that. So Rama binds himself to a particular cave and he says, I will not venture out for 4 long months. In spite of being in utter distress, he follows Dharma. Following Dharma when you are happy, following Dharma when it is convenient, following Dharma when it is suiting you is very easy. Following the same Dharma when it is going against you, following Dharma when it is causing trouble, following Dharma when it is against your intentions, that tests the character of a man. And that is where Rama gets tested, but Rama of course comes out flying colors. Rama says, 4 months I will stay put, I will not come out, I will be around the Kishkinda, there's a mountain there where he is staying put. Now, there are times when we get this toothache or a headache or a stomach ache. Now, toothache and earache, if you generally try and categorize, you will always get them in night. Okay, just about when you are about to sleep, you will have this toothache or this earache that will suddenly shoot up and it will be so excruciating pain that you can't do anything, right? You can't sleep, and you can't even call the doctor. It's midnight. The medicine that you're taking is not working on it, and you'll have to wait for doctor to open his clinic at whatever 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, then go and meet him, then get a medicine and then get cured. Imagine this kind of a pain, this kind of a discomfort in your heart for 4 months. That is what Rama is going through, right? Rama is going through a toothache of the ache that is akin to a toothache or an earache for 4 long months. Why? Because he cannot act. He wants to act, but he cannot act, right? 4 long months. That is the way he's waiting for rainy season to get over, the Chaturmas to get over. It seems he used to sleep, and suddenly in the night he used to cry and get up saying, calling Sita, and then Lakshmana has to assuage him and make him sleep again. So like this is spending for 4 long months. 4 long months of Rama are in pain, sorrow, with the heartache. 4 months of Sugriva is all full party, right? Party and after party also. Why so? You have to understand. No, he's basically a Vanar, right? So he's basically a middle between an animal and a human. He has seen utter poverty, right? He has been driven out of the country. He's been living in fear for years together. And suddenly from nowhere he gets put and sit on the throne as a king with all the pleasures and all the servants at your disposal. His head gets turned. This is all gone. This is complete. And he also anyway had an alcohol problem. So he is like intoxicated and just lying in the bedroom, enjoying one party to other party, third to fourth party. He is not coming out of that at all. Continuously intoxicated into his room. And he is also given the charge of the governance to Hanuman. He said, Hanuman, you look after the governance. I am not bothered 4 months. Nothing is going to happen. Let me enjoy my life. So he is completely enjoying. Sugriva and Rama are opposites of what they are going through in those 4 months. It seems, okay, this is one of the jokes. I was hearing some pravachan a few weeks back on this particular aspect. And that senior pravachan, he gave this as an example. So what is the effect of consuming alcohol? Okay, what is the effect? How it works on that human? Okay, so he is categorized into 6 different categories. The first is a crow syndrome. Okay, so how does a crow eat? It will come. It will first watch at all sides. It will take a peck, and then watch again the other side, and again take a peck. So that is how an alcohol person will start. He will first see you everywhere else, and then take a small sip, and then he will say, oh, this is good. Then again see 3-4 places, then again take a sip. That's a crow syndrome. That's the initial how it starts. Okay, this is just a joke. It's got nothing else to do. Then comes this squirrel syndrome. Squirrel syndrome is basically, if you see squirrel, it will continuously keep on nibbling, right? So then he will keep on sipping the alcohol. Then comes the crane. Crane is considered to be the best in focus and its ability to keep attention at a single place. So a person who is drinking alcohol then becomes like a crane. He is just focused on that alcohol and that bottle of beer or whiskey or whatever there is in his presence. एक के बाद दूसरा, दूसरे के बाद तीसरा. So he is as focused as a crane. Then fourth comes is a monkey. You know how monkeys behave, right? And that is how people who are drunk, completely gone, start jumping, moving around, not able to manage himself, falling at 10 different places. That's a monkey syndrome. And then comes the Karna syndrome. Karna is the Karna from Mahabharata character. Okay? आज भाई पार्टी देगा. Okay? आज भाई गाड़ी चलाएगा. So he suddenly becomes, wants to donate everything. ये लो आज भाई ने ये दे दिया. Right? That person is not within himself. He is not thinking about. He is not able to think clearly, right? So he is in that bhai mode. He will give everything. There is a Karna mode. And then the last one is Vibhishana. What Vibhishana did was Sharanagati. He fell at Rama's feet. We'll come to it later on. Very beautiful one. Here I'm just taking it in the lighter vein, okay? What happens to a drunkard after doing all these syndromes? He goes and falls into the gutter. He will just fall down, okay, somebody's feet. So that is the Vibhishana syndrome. So this is what is happening to Sugriva. He's gone through all these 6 stages time and again. But one person is extremely worried. And who is that person? That person is Hanuman. Now Hanuman, you give him a work, till such time the work gets done, he will not sit quiet, right? No, 1 month has gone, 2 months have gone by, third month has also gone by, now fourth month has already begun. Hanuman has now become really tense. He's saying somehow Sugriva has to be woken up from this state, inebriated state. He has to be brought out and he has to be reminded of his duties. So he is going up and down the room. He is not able to gather enough courage to wake up. He is a king, right? Sugriva now is king. He is to be given that respect. So finally, Hanuman gathers his courage and he knocks at the door. And Sugriva from the inside shouts, "Who is it?" So Hanuman says, "My king, it is Hanuman." He is asking, "Who's Hanuman?" This is there in Valmiki Ramayana, okay? So he is like, "Who's Hanuman?" "My king, this is Hanuman, your minister." And then he comes to senses. Then he opens the door. He opens the door and then he says, "Why, what happened?" So he's saying, Rama has already lived his promise. He's done his bit. Rama actually took the risk of calling himself an adharmi. People will end up pointing fingers at him. He took that risk for you. He's not done any adharma, but he took that risk for you, right? It is now our duty to play around with, to play out our part of the promise, ensure that we do it in time. So he said, "Oh, there's one full month pending. What is the hurry? 4 months are not yet gone by." Hanuman says this. He says, our promise we need to ensure that our promise gets played out even before the due date. Even more important, even before we are reminded of it. This is very important, and I hope I had employees in my firm who are like Hanuman. You need employees like Hanuman. You would have got best employee award year on year continuously. He says, "Sugriva, my king, we should always carry out what is given to us before due date. The due date is 10 days down the line, my team will start 2 days before that." Okay, good team I have, I shouldn't be saying this at all. But the fact is that it will be a last moment effort. Then, most important is even before the client reminds you that the work needs to be done, the work needs to be done. Very important, right? So he's saying this is very important. We need to ensure that we deliver our side of the promise as well. So Sugriva says, yes, you are very right, Hanuman. Thanks for reminding me. So he calls Mila. He says, "Mila, go and mobilize our army." Kishkinda is a huge kingdom. So he says, "Go mobilize our army. Let them come here. By the end of Chaturmas, they should all be here. And go and order, ensure that the army comes back." He turns to Hanuman and says, "Okay, now let me go back to the room." Sugriva again goes back to the room. Hanuman says, "Okay, it's still okay. At least the army is mobilized, which means it is not going to be a last minute effort. By the time 4 months get over, at least the army would be here and then only the plan of action needs to be put in place." So Nila goes and then sends the messages through all the messengers. He says, just skeletal army to ensure that the boundary is taken care of, the borders are taken care of. Otherwise, the entire Vanara army has to come and report to the base. Okay, that is the order that has been given. So the all army starts mobilizing. It seems there are 70,000 is the strength of Vanara army. So they all now start reporting to the base. Saying this, Sugriva has gone in. 4 months get over. Now Rama is a person who lives by promise. Okay, Rama is a person who lives by due dates. Rama is a person who will expect that not me reminding, but the other person should come and report. 4 months get over and his impatience starts. He is already impatient for 4 months, right? Now his impatience starts. Rama says, "Where is Sugriva? 4 months got over yesterday. Where is Sugriva?" And Rama is a stickler to time. Meeting appointment 10 o'clock, you to be there. Sugriva is not there. Sugriva is there in the room. So Rama now gets impatient and Rama himself gets angry now. He becomes so angry that he gets up. And he says, "Lakshmana, go and remind Sugriva that the arrow that killed Vali is still with me and the gates of heaven can get opened to anybody." This is what Rama tells as a message to Lakshmana. Lakshmana is overjoyed. Lakshmana's anger is always at X level. He is never calm. He always has an X amount of anger. Now that Rama has also got angry, he is like, "Oh my God, my anger is got vindicated. I am going to go 10 times what my anger is." And he starts in a real huff. Rama suddenly realizes what I have done. To keep Lakshmana under control is difficult. So he says, "Lakshmana, wait, come back." He says, "Lakshmana, come back. But don't go and spoil the relationship because our work is yet to be done. I don't want somebody resigning from their post and not delivering on his promise and me having to kill him because I will not have any support." I still am dependent on him. I need his army so that we can go and search for Sita. So don't spoil the relationship. You calm down, you tone down your anger and then convey the message. So Lakshmana says, even after toning down, is still 5x of his level. He's spewing fire from his eyes, his body temperature has gone up. It seemed to a level that he would have burnt Kishkinda by his eyes. I mean, that is the amount of anger that Lakshmana is carrying. And he is about to enter the gates. The Vanaras, they see Lakshmana in an anger coming and under distress, under pressure, they don't know what to do. You know, when you have a calamity that you face, you end up doing the wrong thing. You end up doing the thing that you are not supposed to do. And that is what generally happens. What they do is, they close the main door on Lakshmana's face. Lakshmana is even more angry. He says, what are you doing? Your king is sitting on the throne because of me and my brother, and you are closing the gates. We have lost it. Angada immediately comes, Vali's son, he comes, he opens the gate, he says sorry, and he says, Lakshmana, what happened? Come, please come. And I want to meet the king right away. So he says, yes, please come. And by the time the Vanaras have already rushed, they are all in total panic mode. The whole Kishkinda is in panic mode. They've gone and rushed into Sugriva's room, they open it and they say, King Lakshmana has come and he is in extreme anger, he needs to be assuaged. Sugriva is still not even gained his consciousness. He says, why Lakshmana is angry? I didn't even do anything to him. Why is he so angry? By the time Tara, Jambavan, Hanuman, they also gather outside the room. Hanuman realizes the problem. He says, we need to assuage this. This is a firefighting mode. We have to get into a firefighting mode. So he says, Tara, you have to go and receive Lakshmana. Tara says, no, I am not even going to go and stand in his presence. He will just kill me by the sheer sight. So you have to trust me on this. He said, go and meet him. Tara, I have told you, is an extremely wise person. She knows how to speak. She knows how to speak well under various situations. The only person who can handle Lakshmana is you, Tara. I will lift Sugriva, take him to the washroom, ensure that he takes a bath, enough perfume, mouth freshener, and get him to the court. Okay, you get Lakshmana there. So this is a discussion these people have had. Hanuman goes in, picks up Sugriva and rushes into the washroom. Tara goes and meets Lakshmana. The moment Tara comes in, Lakshmana bows his head down. He is known for his chivalry, right? Lakshmana is known for his chivalry. In the presence of a lady, he will not even lift his head. The moment Tara comes in, he puts his head down, but he's still as angry as he can. Tara, the first thing she comes and says, Lakshmana, I am so sorry. Our sincere apologies for the delay in delivering our part of the promise. Sugriva was a poor person, was a Vanavasi. He was suddenly picked from nowhere and made a king. He lost his mind. This is what Tara tells Lakshmana. And she says, I am very sorry that he lost his mind and he is intoxicated. But we are ensuring that he will come to the court right away and deliver his side of the promise. Looking at Tara and hearing what Tara said, immediately 33% down. Right? Lakshmana's anger is down. Why? First, Lakshmana is a chivalrous person, which means the moment he sees a lady, he will put his head down, he will not even look at her face. He is already calm. He is an extremely shy person. Kamba Ramayana, he actually says, Kamba says, when Tara goes and stands in his presence, he bows his head down as if a son-in-law would bow his head down in presence of 10 mother-in-laws. That is what Kamba says. What if a son-in-law faces 10 different mother-in-laws, the way he will bow his head down, that is the manner in which he bows his head down. Secondly, the moment Tara apologizes, and this is a critical thing, there are different points. It's not just a story. Okay? These are things that all of us have to learn. These are points where we'll always keep getting morals. Each of the part of Ramayana is from where we can actually learn. What Tara did is an extremely important thing. When you do a mistake, accept it. Don't beat around the bush. Don't give an excuse. Don't give a reason as to why you did the mistake. First, accept it. Half of your problem is solved. The moment you accept that I did a mistake, all your efforts now are shifted in resolving that mistake rather than on a blame game. If you end up doing a blame game, what will effectively happen is all your efforts are only on blaming as to who did the mistake, right? And the problem still continues to remain. The moment you shift and you say, okay, I did the mistake, I'm so sorry, Now let's look forward, which means the shift is now on the solving the problem, right? Which is what Tara did, and she did it very effectively. She said, I'm so sorry, Lakshmana, that you had to come here. Don't worry, we will surely deliver on our promise. Do not measure our dedication based on what we have done now. This is what Tara says in very exact words. Come with me, let us go to Darbar. And she's just praying that Sugriva is there, okay, as fresh as he can be. Hanuman has already got him there. He's sitting on his throne, Lakshmana is down. Throne is always in an elevated place, right? Now Hanuman says, go. That is what he's done. He nudges Sugriva, go and meet him. Don't sit on your throne. Sugriva walks down, embraces Lakshmana, and he says, my brother, I'm so sorry. I should have acted before. Hanuman did tell me that I should have acted before. But don't worry, under Hanuman instruction, we have already mobilized all the army, okay? And the army is already on its way. In a day or two, they would be reaching here. And in the mind is thanking Hanuman. Thank God Hanuman reminded me 15 days back. At least I have got some answer, some face to show. And thanks to Tara for having assuaged Lakshmana and got his anger down. Listening this, Lakshmana also is now has calmed down, has composed himself. He also embraces Sugriva, and then Sugriva immediately says, take me to Rama. I would want to give this news to Rama. I'm sure he's also eagerly waiting to hear from me. Sugriva, Lakshmana, Jambavan, everybody then go back, meet Rama. They embrace each other, and then Sugriva gives the news that my army is almost on its way. Let us put a plan of action. And as he's walking, Sugriva has already put a plan in action in his mind. He's saying, let us make 4 teams. He go onto the drawing board, and then they start planning as to what needs to be done. So what is it that they do? What is the plan? Right? So we need to know as to why they put this particular plan in place. They put up 4 different teams, right? One for north, one for south, one for east, one for west. They put up 4 different teams. We know that it was Ravana who has picked up Sita and gone. We know that he flew southwards. And we know that Ravana's country is Lanka, and that is where there is more probability that Sita would be there. But we also know that Ravana is an Asura, right? They are experts in deceit. He would have taken a southward movement, but probably he's taken a turn and gone somewhere else, right? So there is good chance there is other people who have befriended him in the Koshala Rajya. He might have hid her there. So he doesn't want to take a chance. So Sugriva says, we will send contingents to all 4 directions, but I'll send the most important contingent to the south direction, because there is a more likely chance that he would have taken to his fortress rather than keeping in a place where he is not secured about. Ravana, there is a good chance that he would have taken Sita to a place where he himself is around, so that he can take care. You know, it's a far more stronger fort. So there is a higher chance there, but he didn't want to take this chance. So he made 4 different teams, and each of the team was headed by a Vanara. So you had Satabali, who headed the northern team. You had Sushena, who had headed the west team. You had Vinata, who headed the east team. And then you had Hanuman and Angada, who were in charge of the south team. So now I've told the names. Next time I'm going to ask a question, who are the 4 people? Okay. Yeah, you don't have to remember. Even I noted it down from somewhere, so don't worry. So now Sugriva is giving them, each of them, orders as to how they are to search. And Sugriva is showing awesome skills on geography. He's saying, this city, ensure that this is the Mahatma Gandhi road, go here. This is the Patel road, go here. There are 205 flat number, ensure that you miss that. And he's showing amazing skill, better than Google Map. He's showing as if he has a street view on his head itself. And that's the manner in which he's telling geography. Rama is astonished. Rama is saying, Sugriva, how did you get all this geography knowledge? Each nook and corner you're saying, don't miss this corner on the left side, ensure that you catch hold of this particular city, catch hold of this particular person, I know this person will help us. How did you get this knowledge? He's saying, don't worry, there's nothing great. When I was running away from Bali, I ran across all the cities and Bali was driving me crazy. Finally, I found Rishyamukha Parvata, where Bali could not keep his foot on. But before that, I went through all the cities. I have run through all these cities, and that is how I know all this geography. No great achievement. Finally, it is at least coming to some use, is what Sugriva says. But I am very happy that Sugriva is able to give detailed instructions. In Kamba Ramayana, there is a sloka where it says, go to all the places and instructs Vanara. It says, don't go to Tirumala. Tirumala is where Balaji is there, right? Tirupati, right? Tirupati. He says, don't go to Tirupati, and Vyakyankar give a reason as to why, because the name is Venkata Chalapati. Venkat is the name, right? What does Venkat means? Ven means sin, and Kata means remover. So he is a god of remover of all sins. The moment you go there, it seems all your sins will get removed and you will attain moksha. So he's saying, don't go there because all your sins will go and you will attain moksha, then who will help me in finding Sita? That is the fear that Sugriva has. So this is just a side story. Why Kamba included this into the poem Ramayana is to tell to us, right? That go to Tirupati to ensure that your sins get washed away. You know, it is a message for us. It is not a message for the Vanaras. It is a message for us that if we have to wash off our sins and getting moksha, a single visit to Tirupati will ensure that our wishes, our sins are washed away. That is the importance of that place, Tirupati. And to show that importance, this particular shloka has got installed into the Ramayana. So, Sugriva as the team leader has given a motivational talk. We all do here, right? Do well, we are going for a cause, great cause, find Sita Ma and get. There's a great talk that he does. Rama is silent, okay? And he sees Hanuman at the side. Hanuman is a person who is still not aware of his strengths. I have covered this when I covered Hanuman Charitra. A very humble person by nature. So he is at the side, he is just listening to all great people talk, Sugriva, Jambavan talk, and he is just listening. Rama asks, who's in the south contingent? So he is saying Hanuman and Angada and Jambavan, these are there in the south contingent. So he calls Hanuman and he says, Hanuman, there is more likelihood that you might meet Sita. He says that because he also knows that if at all there is one person who is really sincere, who will ensure that the work gets done and will not rest till the work gets done, is Hanuman. See, ability is one thing, all these people had the ability. Sincerity is something else, right? And Hanuman had the ability and the sincerity to achieve it. So he knows whom to trust on. So he says, Hanuman, come here. There is a likelihood that you might meet Sita. So when you meet Sita, there is a chance that she might ask you, who you are. Even if you say you have come from Rama, she might not believe you because there are a lot of demons and they are capable of taking different forms and so there is a good chance that she might not trust you. So it is important that you carry something from me as an insignia which tells that you have come from me. So he gives a ring that he is wearing. He gives a ring and gives it to him. Rama goes one step ahead and he says, once you meet Sita, you get something that she is wearing so that it is a proof for me to know that you have met her. No, Vyakyankar spend some time on this. Why would Rama say this? Does it mean that he doesn't trust Hanuman? Okay, that when he says that I have met Sita, does it mean that Rama is going to say, no, prove it to me, pramana, give me pramana that you have actually met her? Rama would not say that, right? Hanuman will not say a lie at all. Why will he say a lie to his Aradhya Dev? But here Rama shows that he is a man, right? A man in distress will generally act against logic. He might trust Hanuman blindly, but still he is in distress. Still he wants to see something, that is one. Secondly, there is a good chance that Hanuman might still end up meeting somebody who is not Sita because Hanuman has not even seen Sita, right? Imagine, I'll come to Sundarkand, you have to just imagine Hanuman's situation. He is going to go in search of a lady whom he has not seen, of a person, that lady is a wife of a person he met some 5-6 months ago, okay, he doesn't even know, and he is going to search that person in a country like Lanka. If I were to give, he doesn't even know the address, okay. Lanka is where we believe, he still doesn't know. So as per story, if you were to really look at Hanuman's position, he doesn't even know whether Sita is there in Lanka, right? So if I were to ask you to, any of y'all, tell that I have a brother who stays somewhere in Bombay, go and search and give a message. Where is my brother? Who is he? How do you know? No photograph. Can you imagine Hanuman's situation? He has to go and search the right person, give the message, get the message and give it back to Rama. That is why it's called Asadhya Sadhaka Swami. That is why he can manage, the person can manage the most impossible of all tasks, and that is Hanuman. Right? So he gives this ring and he says, if at all there is a possibility that one of y'all can meet, it is you, Hanuman. Rama knows. So he says, give this to Sita and get something in back so that I am also As I am also sure that you have met Sita. So now all the 4 search parties go. The north, south, east, west. And Sugriva, Rama, before the team goes off, Sugriva has given his motivational talk. Rama gives a talk. He says, all of y'all are going to go across various villages, towns, cities. They are all vanaras, right? They'll all keep jumping around in trees, over the rooftops. He says, do not cause any nuisance to anybody. Finding Sita is our objective, yes. You are working for me, yes. But in that josh, in that spur of the moment, don't cause inconvenience to people who are residents of a particular country or a particular city or a town or a village. Go and search without disturbing them. Look at the amount of karuna or compassion Rama has even in a moment of distress. Why should he be bothered, right, about people in different cities and towns? But still he is bothered. Don't go and disturb. Important message. We all live in gated societies with a lot of people around us as neighbors, right? And we put loud music, we disturb them, we've got people coming in, going out, we keep our chappals outside, we have cycle outside. What is important is to ensure that we live life which doesn't disturb others. Rama shows this even under distress. When I say Ramayana has messages at every point, it has got messages at every stage. We have got messages to take. Such is Rama's approach towards people. So 4 teams start off. Once that 4 team is gone, he is given a time frame of 1 month. Okay, and Sugriva has said, you have to come back in 1 month. So these guys have all gone. The north, the south, and the north, the east, and the west, they all come back empty-handed after a month. We know they had to come empty-handed, right? Sita is nowhere on that side at all. We all know where she is. So they already searched and they have come back and they all have reported back to the base saying that no, we could not find Sita at all. Rama and Lakshmana are actually now very upset. They're saying out of 4 teams, 75% of the team is back, only 25% is still yet to come back, and we couldn't find Sita at all. So Rama is very upset and very morose. Sugriva says, don't worry, we all know there is a high chance that she is gone to the south, and Hanuman and my nephew Angad and Jambavan are there in the team. Don't worry, the fact that they have not come, which means they are still hopeful of finding, let us hold on to the hope. I'm sure they are going to find, let us be hopeful. Okay, this is where Kishkinda Kand ends. Okay, under this hope, Rama and Lakshmana are waiting for the south contingent to come back, and Rama and Lakshmana now will be backstage. Now we will enter Sundarakand. Sundarakand is only and only about Hanuman. Okay, Rama and Lakshmana, the actors are now resting backstage, chai pani, breakfast, nasta. They are not going to come back on the stage now for the next few weeks. Okay, now action is only around Hanuman. This contingent, the southern contingent, now they begin. Okay, Sundarakand is considered to be the most beautiful of the Kand in Ramayana, the most beautiful chapter in Ramayana. People who are in distress, people who have family problems, people who have wealth issues, people who have office issues, people who have problems in life, people who see horoscopes, they generally tell as a parihar, which means as a resolve, as a point to resolve the issue. They would say that you do Sundarakand Parayan, which means you do read Sundarakand at home, all problems will get resolved. This is considered as an important solution to all the problems that we face in our house. I urge all of y'all and the others in the group, I'll anyway drop a message that from now on for the next 2 or 3 weeks that we'll be having Sundarakand, please do attend. Okay, it gives immense peace of mind. It will give a lot of happiness. It will give a lot of prosperity. It will give a lot of health. It will give a lot of family pleasure. It will put all of us in a good position and give peace of mind. More than anything, it will give peace of mind to all of us. And with that prayer, let us begin Sundarakand. So what happens is, Valmiki, after finishing off his Ramayana, he starts giving names to each of the chapters. The Balakand, Ayodhya-kand, Aranya-kand, Kishkinda-kand, then there is this Kand, Sundarakand, and then the Yuddha-kand, and then the last one, Uttarakand. So when he's giving the names, all of them are place-based. So Balakand is all about childhood. Ayodhya Kand is when they were in Ayodhya. Aranya Kand is when they were in the forest. Kishkinda Kand is when they were in the in Kishkinda, around Vali and that story. Sundarakand, he was thinking, he said, let's wait, let me finish off the last one. Last one is Yuddhakand, it's about what? So he said, what name do I give to this? There is no Rama and Lakshmana in this at all. There is only Hanuman. So do I call it Hanuman Kand? Then he gives a thought. Then he goes and approaches Hanuman. He says, Hanuman, this is one Kand, this is one chapter where I am not able to give a name. What name do I give? Do I call it Lanka Kand? Do I call it Sita Kand? What do I call? I'm not able to give a name. There is one thing that I can think of, and I think you should also approve it, so I thought I should check with you. So Hanuman says, okay, tell me. So he says, I will call it Hanuman Kand, because it's all about you and the feat that you have achieved. Right from beginning the search till you finding Sita and coming back and giving that news to Rama. That is what it is all about. So I think you should allow me to call it as Hanuman Kand. Hanuman is a very self-evasive bhakt, right? He is a devotee. So he says, no, you can't call it Hanuman Kand and all. You don't put my name. Everything I did is by Rama's name. Ram Naam Ka Prabhav. The effect of Rama's name made me do that. Every time I did it with saying Sri Ram, and that is how Sri Ram ki Jai. That is how I did all my work. So it's got nothing to do with me at all. I didn't achieve anything. Rama himself achieved. You call it as Ramakand. You might see me outside, but the main person who ran me was Rama, right? So you have to keep it as Ramakand. So he said, okay, let's not argue on that. It is a very beautiful Kand, so I will keep the name as Sundar Kand. Is that okay with you? So Hanuman says, okay, you keep it as Sundar Kand. And just as Hanuman is about to leave, Valmiki says, Hanuman, your mother was calling you. You might want to just go and attend to her. So he says, okay, thanks. And he goes and meets his mother, Anjana Devi. As he enters the room, Anjana calls him, Sundara, come. Because that is the name that was given to him in the cradle. If I remember right, when I covered Hanuman's story, the name that his mother had given to him was Sundar. Okay? So she calls it. It's not Hanuman. Hanuman means what? The broken jaw. Why will a mother keep a son's name as a person with a broken jaw? Right? No one in good senses will do that. It is a name he acquired later on. Right? Anjaneya is you don't have to give that name. Anjana's son is Anjaneya. Maruti is Maruta's son. Right? So you don't have to give that name. It is an assumed name anyways. So the name that was given was, it seems, Sundara. So she says, Sundara, come. I was looking for you. And that is the time it strikes to Hanuman that Valmiki has cheated him. Okay? Valmiki, when we left, he said, don't worry, because it is a beautiful Kand, I will keep the name as Sundar Kand. Is it okay? And he has also taken his approval. He said, okay. Hanuman says, okay. And that is the time it strikes that Valmiki finally kept Hanuman's name only for the entire Kand. It is not only the most beautiful, it is also the most purest and something that gives a lot of peace of mind. One of the most impossible feats Hanuman is able to achieve in this particular Kand. I just give an example. You had to search somebody's wife whom you have not even seen in a place as big as Sri Lanka. The searches, not only searches, it causes the problem to Ravana and then comes back with proper news. That is what, and that is the only person in the entire Purana who can do something as impossible as out of the mind that a person can do is Hanuman, because of his ability and his sincerity to do the work. So Sugriva says, don't worry, Hanuman is in that group and they are going to ensure the moment Hanuman takes up any work, he will never come back half done. He will ensure that it is completed. I have full faith in him. Rama says, yes, I too have great faith in him. I'm sure he comes back with some news. So that is how Rama is now waiting, and this southern contingent has begun their journey, and now they will go down southwards. We will cover this beautiful Sundarakand in the upcoming 2-3 weeks that I can try and cover. I'll try and cover it as fast as possible, but I don't want to do it too fast because it's a very beautiful chapter. Let us enjoy each part of it and let us try and get as much morals out of it. There will be a lot of places where we'll get morals because it's dealing with Hanuman, right? And then we'll surely get a lot of morals out of it. And thus, we will enjoy Sundarakand in the upcoming weeks. All your friends, if you all want to spread the news that next week we are starting Sundarakand, we can ask them to attend. I'm sure it will benefit all of us. With that prayer, I close today's session. Hope I was audible without break. Clear? Any questions you all have? So Valmiki, Narad Muni gives Valmiki an ability to see what Rama. Valmiki was there when Rama was there. Samakali, which means he was contemporary. Okay, so Narada tells that I will give you an ability to see as if it's happening in front of you. So he gives him ability to see like a television, like we see series. That's the way Dura Darshan. So his ability to see it live as Ramayana is happening, he's seeing it and he's writing it live. Okay, so he writes it and then he meets Hanuman for this. But it's only an upakatha. It is only a story to tell us the method in which that name was given and the importance of that particular name. That story where he goes and meets Hanuman is again an upakatha, which is a side story where he goes and meets Hanuman wanting to show his great work, and Hanuman has already written the Ramayana in his own manner, and you can just imagine Hanuman's perspective on Ramayana would be a different level. But that was not for us, that was not meant for us. For us it was Valmiki's Ramayana, and Hanuman of course realizes that. So he tears out his Ramayana and ensures that we as humans get the treasure of Valmiki Ramayana. I hope I answered your question. Good. Any other questions? Otherwise we can begin our Hanuman Chalisa. Okay. Shri Guru Charan Saroj Raja Nijamana Mukur Sudhari Bharanam Raghuvar Bimal Jasu Jodaya Kupalachari Buddhihin Tanu Janike Sumiro Pavan Kumar Bala Buddhi Vidya Dehu Mohe Haru Klesha Vikar
Jai Hanuman Jnana Guna Sagar Jai Kapish Tiuloka Ucha Ramadut Atulita Baladhama Anjali Putra Pavan Sutanam Mahavir Vikrama Bajrangi Kumati Nivara Sumati Gesam
Kanchana Varana Viraj Subesa Kanana Kundala Kunchita Kesa Hata Vajra aur Dhwaja Viraje Kandhe Munj Jane Hu Saje Shankara Suvana Kesari Nandana Teja Pratapa Maha Jagabandana Vidyavan Guni Ati Chatur Ram Kaj Karibe Ko Vatur Prabhu Charitra Sunibe Ko Rasiya Ram Lakhan Sita Man Basiya Sukshma Rupa Dhari Siya Dikhava Vikata Rupa Dhari Lanka Jarava भीम रूप धरि असुर संहारे
रामचंद्र के काज सवार
लाए सजीवन लखन जियाए श्री रघुवीर हर शिवर लाए रघुपति कीन्ही बहुत बढ़ाई तुम मम प्रिय भरत ही सम भाई सहस बदन तुमरो यश गावे अस कहि श्रीपति कंठ लगावे सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीसा नारद सारद सहित अहिसा जम कुबेर दिक्पाल जहाँ ते कवि कोविद कहि सके कहाँ ते तुम उपकार सुग्रीव ही कीन्हा राम मिलाए राजपद दीना तुम्हरो मंत्र विभीषण माना लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जाना जुग सहस्र योजन पर भानु लील्यो ताहि मधुर फल जानु प्रभु मुद्रिका मेलि मुख माहि जलधि लांग गए अचरज नाहि दुर्गम काज जगत के जेते सुगम अनुग्रह तुमरे तेते राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे होत न आज्ञा बिनु पैसारे
सब सुगल है तुम्हारी
सरना तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना आपन तेज सम्हारो वापे तीनों लोक हांकते कापे भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे महावीर जब नाम सुनावे नासे रोग हरे सब पीड़ा जपत निरंतर हनुमत बीरा संकट ते हनुमान छुड़ावे मन क्रम वचन ध्यान जो लावे सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा तिनके काज सकल तुम साजा और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे सो ही अमित जीवन फल पावे चारों जुग पर ताप तुम्हारा है प्रसिद्ध जगत उजियारा साधु संत के तुम रखवारे असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे अष्ट सिद्धि नव निधि के दाता असवर दीन जानकी माता राम रसायन तुम्हारे पासा सदा रहो रघुपति के दासा तुम्हारे भजन राम को पावे जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे अंत काल रघुवर पुर जाई जहाँ जन्म हरि भक्त कहाई और देवता चित्तन धरही हनुमत से ही सर्व सुख करही संकट कटै मिटै सब पीड़ा जो सुमिरै हनुमत बलबीरा जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई कृपा करहु गुरुदेव की नाई ये शत बार पाठ कर कोई छूट ही बंदी महासुख होई जो यह पढ़े हनुमान चालीसा होए सिद्धि सा की गौरी सा तुलसीदास सदा हरिचेरा, कीजय नाथ हृदय महाडेरा।
पवन तनय
संकट हरन मंगल मूर्ति रूप, राम लखन सीता सहित हृदय बसहु सुर भूप। सियावर रामचंद्र की
जय
के बोलो हनुमान की।
जय।
धन्यवाद धन्यवाद।